NASCAR could be heading to the streets of San Diego next year, and we have to talk about the current NASCAR playoff format. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin NASCAR. I'm your host, Andrew. Back-to-back days of me posting episodes on this show, and that's because I got a lot to talk about. And most of this stuff did just come out in the past 24 hours. But unfortunately, I do have to start this episode off on a sad note. It is sad to me to say of Charlie Henderson, current Craftsman Truck Series owner, passed away on June 14th, 2025 at Johnston Memorial Hospital. Charlie Henderson, his team, Henderson Motorsports, is competing in the Cup Series, Xfinity Series, and Craftsman Truck Series for the better part of 4 decades, which I'm a very new fan, and I was not aware of the success that Henderson Motorsports had and the amount of impact they had on the sport. They had a couple wins at Talladega and Mid-Ohio. It is very, very sad to see, and I'm reading a lot of this for myself for the first time, and I want to read a bit of the official statement that Henderson Motorsports put out. It is with great sadness that we announce the passing of our team owner, Charlie Henderson. Charlie was not only the driving force behind Henderson Motorsports, but also a beloved member of the NASCAR community and a dear friend to us all. Charlie was the second longest active team owner in NASCAR, behind only the Wood brothers. He began his racing career at Kingsport Speedway in 1975 and had been a part of NASCAR since 1982. His passion for racing, commitment to his team, and love for the sport left a lasting impact on everyone who had the privilege of working alongside him. He built this team on hard work, family values, and a love for competition that will continue to inspire us moving forward. We are grateful for the many years of leadership, friendship, and memories that Charlie gave to Henderson Motorsports and the entire NASCAR community. We ask that you keep the Henderson family in your thoughts and prayers during this difficult time. Yeah, I mean, it's very rough for that entire 75 Henderson Motorsports team. They won the season opening Craftsman Truck Series race at Daytona, only to have that trophy and win stripped away from them because of post-race inspection and the team not meeting minimum height. And it was just so sad to see for a team, such a small team, only a part-time team that runs a handful of races every year. And to see a big moment for them just stripped away like that, I'm just reflecting on that right now. That is very hard to think about. And now their team owner, Charlie Henderson, is passing away. So I know for myself, I will be keeping everyone in the Henderson family and Henderson Motorsports. They will be having my thoughts and prayers over the next couple days. I'm so sorry to all those who knew Charlie, and it looked like to me that he was running a very good operation with that Henderson Motorsports 75. He was able to rope in drivers like Parker Kligerman, who gave a statement who I'll read in just a second. But for them to win at Daytona and rack up some good top 10 finishes last year with Stephen Parsons in the 75, I mean, clearly that Charlie Henderson ran an efficient and very well-oiled machine at Henderson Motorsports. Parker Kligerman, the current driver for Henderson Motorsports and current analyst in the NASCAR Xfinity Series booth on the CW, put out a statement on X today, and he voiced his support and his grief for Charlie Henderson, listing all the accomplishments in his story on how he got to Henderson Motorsports and all the things that the family inspired in him. And I'm not going to read it all because it's a pretty lengthy post, but just from looking at Parker Kligerman's post, Charlie Henderson definitely had a big impact on many people. And I can't say that for myself, but I can see that just from all this, it's a very tough loss for a lot of people. Now, my thoughts and prayers go out to everyone in the Henderson family and the Henderson Motorsports family, and I wish them the best of luck throughout the rest of this 2025 season. Now, hopefully on a bit of a brighter note for the rest of this episode, I have some driver news to talk about today. So Cam Waters, the Australian Supercars driver, is going to be driving for Thor Sport Racing at the Lime Rock Park in the number 66 F-150 truck. Cam Waters, he has made a couple starts in NASCAR in the truck series. I believe he made a start at Martinsville most recently, and he made a start in the Cup Series at Sonoma for the Stage 60 car for RFK Racing. Now, Cam Waters was trying to get a deal set for the Chicago Street Race. That's kind of a race that kind of suits his driving style and most close to home for him, racing-wise, I guess. But that deal did not go through. It's most likely he was trying to get a deal with RFK in a fourth entry, or with Rick Ware Racing in the 15 or 01, whichever number Rick Ware wants to use there. But Cam Waters will be returning to NASCAR at Lime Rock Park, and Brennan Poole will be driving at Pocono Raceway this upcoming weekend in the number 44 for NY Racing. Brennan Poole has not made a Cup start since 2023 with Rick Ware Racing, and Brennan Poole, he's been running really well in the Xfinity Series this season for Alpha Prime Racing, so I'm wishing the best of luck to Brennan Poole. He actually is driving the 44 car in the Xfinity Series full time, so it's kind of funny that he gets to drive the 44 in the Cup Series, so maybe that gives him a little bit of a boost. You never know. Now, a bit of more funny news to talk about today. Dale Earnhardt Jr. will be back at the racetrack this weekend at Pocono with the 88 team for Connor Zilisch, because he will be subbing as crew chief, because the crew chief for Connor Zilisch, Marty Lindley, is serving a one-race suspension. So Connor Zilisch will be hearing the great Dale Jr. in his ear for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And Dale Earnhardt Jr., he's got to go back up to the booth on Sunday to cover the Cup Series race. So Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s got a lot to do this weekend at Pocono. So good luck to Dale Jr. on the pit box. Hopefully he doesn't make too many bad calls that cost Connor Zilisch. But I think that Dale Earnhardt Jr. will be just fine on top of the pit booth. He's a very experienced race car driver. I have no doubt that the 88 team will still be very, very solid. Now, some other news regarding the infamous, at this point, 2311 Racing, Front Row Motorsports, and NASCAR lawsuit. The teams are apparently planning to appeal the ruling of the appeal that NASCAR made to the preliminary injunction. So the teams are appealing the appeal, I guess. But anyway, the teams will be appealing this, and this is a ruling that could either overturn the appeal, which means that the teams would be allowed to keep their charters and the preliminary injunction would stand for the rest of the year, or it could go in favor of the appeal, the original appeal, and the teams would lose their charters at like normal after or before, I guess it's the weekend of the Atlanta race, which is after this weekend at Pocono. So this is a big moment. The teams will have until Thursday to request a hearing or a rehearing, and Jeffrey Kessler, the team's attorney, confirmed Tuesday that the teams would meet that deadline. So no official statement has gone out, but it does seem very likely the teams will appeal the original appeal, I guess. So Jeffrey Kessler actually made a quote to a question to NBC Sports, and I want to read that to you. So Jeffrey Kessler said to NBC, quote, "Unfortunately, I don't think the three judges, if you read their opinion, actually dealt with the hard issues, and that's what the circuit will need to do, most likely this Thursday." Not implied, I guess, end quote. So there you go. The teams are planning to appeal the original appeal in regards to the preliminary injunction. Again, this has no effect on the lawsuit for the hearing that is scheduled for December later this year that will overall decide whether the teams will be able to win the case against NASCAR and they will be able to seek damages. And there's still a lot of time between now and then. Again, the teams and NASCAR have the chance to come together to reach a settlement, but it doesn't look very likely at this point. I mean, again, a lot can happen in June, and it's in December. We got 7 months to get to that point. So, I mean, a lot can happen in 7 months. But there you go. The teams are planning to appeal the appeal that could potentially save their preliminary injunction and keep their charters, or it could cause them to potentially not have their charters for the rest of the year. Now, in some big news that were dropped today, NASCAR is trying to reach an agreement with the city of San Diego to possibly run a street race on the streets of San Diego. I know, crazy, right? But anyway, all the funny stuff out of the way. This is big for NASCAR because right now they're in the third year of a 3-year contract with the city of Chicago to run a street race in Chicago. Now, NASCAR has not been to the greater Southern California market since 2023, which was the final year of Auto Club Speedway. And since then, Auto Club Speedway and nothing's been built there after everything's been demolished. And there were some reports of maybe they would be running a race on the Los Angeles street circuit, but those plans fell through. And now we are possibly looking at going to San Diego, which no deal has been official, and I imagine we will get a statement when it is official. But this is really big, and could this replace potentially Chicago, or could this potentially replace the Mexico City date? Or could there be another date that changes from Mexico City maybe to Montreal? Because I know Montreal has been in consideration. You never know. And I imagine that of the 3 dates, or the 3 cities, I should say, Mexico City, San Diego, and Chicago, you can only keep 2 of those, I imagine. And then you really won't be able to explore other options like Montreal at that point. I would honestly rather see San Diego, Mexico City, or you swap Mexico City for Montreal next year. The schedule is still being drawn up for the 2025 or 2026 Cup Series schedule, excuse me. So there's still a lot can happen, but it looks like that NASCAR on the Cup Series will be racing on the streets of Chicago for now. I'm cautiously optimistic about that, but this is really exciting news, and I'm really excited about it. I'm excited about the exciting news that is to come. Now, I know we were just talking about San Diego and NASCAR maybe ditching Mexico City, but I do have to go back to the Mexico City weekend because something a little rough happened this weekend, and it continues to be Carson Hocevar, who had a rough weekend. First, he spun out off of turn 15 to cause that final caution for the day, and it was just overall not a great day. He finished a lap down in 34th. He wrecked Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and ended up getting a face full of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in his cockpit. So it's been a rough weekend, but something that even happened before the race began was Carson Hocevar going onto his Twitch stream, which he does a lot, and he races on iRacing, and he said some comments about Mexico City and the community that rub people the wrong way. And I don't have the clip, and I know there is some clips online, possibly. I haven't found any for myself yet, and frankly, I do not want to have those appear on my show, so I'm not going to have them on here. But Carson Hocevar, for those comments on Twitch, has been fined $50,000 by his team, Spire Motorsports, who had a close consultation with NASCAR and issued the following disciplinary measures. A $50,000 fine, which will be donated in equal portions to 3 organizations that serve Mexican communities: the Mexican Red Cross, the Un Kilo de Oda, a nonprofit combating childhood malnutrition and supporting early childhood development in rural communities, and the United Way Mexico, funding local NGOs that improve education, health, and housing in 22 Mexican states. So there you go. And before even this whole statement was put out there on social media and before this whole thing went viral, Carson Hocevar made a comment on X and was kind of apologizing before any of this got off the ground. And I'll just read a quote here. So this is Carson Hocevar, quote, "When I answered that question on stream, I was skeptical about the trip so far and believed everything I read or heard about Mexico City from people, who more than likely also had never been here. Now that I've actually left my hotel a couple times and raced here in front of some of the most passionate fans I've ever seen, my opinion has changed. I'm embarrassed by my comments, by the race I ran, and I may have to move to hide out from Ricky anyway." Oh, that's good. That's good. It continues with, "Count this as another lesson for me in a season I've learned so much." Yeah, you better have learned so much, man. "Don't believe everything you hear without seeing it yourself. If anyone should give anyone or any place the benefit of the doubt, it's me. I'm sorry, Mexico City. Consider me an ally going forward and an example of getting off Twitch and seeing things with my own 2 eyes." End quote. So Carson Hocevar really took a good stance on this, and this clearly wasn't a good, like a generic PR apology that you see so many drivers and teams come up with. And this was clearly well thought out and gave it his own little style with, and I quote, "And I may have to move here to hide out from Ricky anyway." Man, that's a good quote. That's good to hear, and it's good that Carson Hocevar is learning. I know I'm a lot younger than him. I'm in my teens. He's 22, so I honestly don't know. I don't know what Carson Hocevar is thinking, but it's good to see that he's leaning in a direction that he is remorseful for what he did, and this is in the eyes of someone else in the world. So there you go. Carson Hocevar fined $50,000, and there was a lot of backlash against the team, Spire Motorsports. A lot of Hocevar's fans that were saying that, oh, he shouldn't be fined or he shouldn't be fined, but Hocevar went back on X like today and said, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! That's no, it is what it is." And I think the punishment befits the crime or the fault here. It's not a crime; it's a fault. And so I'm not gonna read the post because it has a lot of stuff I frankly don't know a lot about. But I'll just say basically it is the truth is the truth. That's what Hocevar said mostly in this. So he clearly is fine with this, and he knows that with great power comes great responsibility for all my Spider-Man fans out there, and I'm a Spider-Man fan, so there you go. I don't. There you go. So Carson Hocevar fined $50,000. It's good that that money's going to a good cause, I guess. So Carson Hocevar, again, he's learning. He's 22, and I would say he's not media trained. He's not media trained. So, yeah. Oh, and another thing that Hocevar will have to undergo is mandatory cultural sensitivity and bias awareness training to be completed. Okay, so he's getting some learning done there. Now, some other people have pointed out on other NASCAR podcasts when referring to this specific issue, they point to Kyle Larson, who now is one of the best NASCAR Cup Series drivers, to an incident that happened back in 2021 where he said something not great on a stream and got suspended for it. So they point to that, as well as Noah Gragson in 2023, who now Noah Gragson is back in the Cup Series full time. And I believe that this is nothing different. And again, all of these guys were young when they said this and a little bit immature. So it's all a learning process, I would say. And that's all I really got to say. It's a learning process. These guys, they're young, they're older than me. And thank God I'm not a NASCAR driver and a guy that represents multi-million companies, because otherwise, I don't know where I would be if I was a race car driver. I don't know where I'd be because I bet I would be getting the same stuff like every single week for something I say on like the radio or on a Twitch stream or on a podcast like this. So thank goodness I'm not representing anything. But either way, there's that Carson Hocevar. It was a bad weekend for him, but it looks like he's rebounding and come to his senses, I guess, about what he did. Now this is live and breaking when I'm seeing this. I was gonna jump to Shane Van Gisbergen's win and everything that would be like all the effects this has on the playoff bubble, but breaking news, Rick Ware Racing has countersued Legacy Motor Club, and this is of course this is in conjunction with Legacy Motor Club suing Rick Ware Racing for not selling the charter. So I'm just gonna read anything. I'm looking at everything I can find. And Rick Ware Racing, okay, this is per jski.com. Rick Ware Racing filed a countersuit against the team that's suing it over a contract dispute, claiming that Legacy Motor Club falsely claimed it had been sold a racing contract for the 2026 season. Okay, that's what we know. So this is a quote from Rick Ware Racing. Should Rick Ware Racing be forced to sell charter number 27 for 2026, it would have no charter under which to race and would go out of business. For this reason, Rick Ware Racing would never have agreed, and unequivocally did not agree, to sell charter number 27 in advance of the 2026 season. Now, charter 27 is being leased right now to RFK Racing and is being used by Ryan Preece in the number 60 car. Right now, Rick Ware Racing would have to lease the current charter they're using with Cody Ware. So, and you can't lease the same charter 2 years in a row. So Rick Ware Racing would want to sell the current charter or lease the current charter they have right now to RFK or potentially sell it for 2027 and maybe bow out the sport. And in 2027, also simultaneously sell another charter, charter number 27, to Legacy Motor Club. And so Rick Ware could back out of the sport kind of easily and not in a wild and crazy moment. And in another early sale draft, Rick Ware apparently included a notice that they intended to race charter number 27, which is being leased to Rick Ware, or I mean RFK, this season. So they would sell charter number 27 potentially in 2027 and then sell or lease charter number 36, which is the charter that they are currently are racing now in 2025. So there's that. And apparently in February, there was some more confusion about whether they wanted to sell Charter 27 or Charter 36. And Rick Ware wanted to sell Charter number 36 eventually. And after this agreement was signed, Legacy Motor Club began insisting that the agreement concerned Charter number 27. And they've apparently tried to return a non-refundable deposit of $750,000 that Legacy Motor Club provided, but Legacy has refused to do so, and the sale itself placed the price of the charter at $45 million, the highest amount for which a charter has ever been sold. Holy cow. So this is a lot of money being poured into this one charter. So this is just continuing to show that there's been a lot of confusion about whether you want to sell which charter, you want to sell this charter or this charter, and they're disagreeing on that. And we don't have enough information to know where where this is coming from and like who messed up yet. Hasn't been gotten to that level yet. And honestly, I'm looking at it, and at first I was leaning towards Legacy Motor Club because I mean, you wouldn't buy a charter for 2027. It just doesn't make sense. You want to expand as quickly as possible. So I'm still having that in the back of my mind, but I don't know. It's just it doesn't seem really good, right? That Legacy Motor Club wants to buy a charter for 2027. Like maybe Jimmy Johnson wants to run more part-time races next year, but they can run a fourth part-time car. So I'm I'm really confused on like what Rick Ware's objective is. Like I want to know what Rick Ware Racing's objective is because I know they have a drag racing team. So do they want they by this I'm guessing they want to bow out of the sport. So I don't know. I really don't know, man. This is just all really weird. Now I am hoping that this lawsuit kind of takes a back seat to the 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports lawsuit because I believe that depending on what happens in that lawsuit, whether the teams lose their charters and they're out of the sport altogether or they stay, that could be an huge impact. If Front Row Motorsports and 2311 Racing lose their charters, that'll be 6 charters up for sale now. And I don't know if NASCAR would be able to I believe NASCAR would be able to take control of those charters and sell them out to teams as they want or keep them as they want. So that would mean that Legacy Motor Club and Rick Ware Racing could go to NASCAR and possibly buy one or two of those charters if they want. And other teams, I bet, would do so as well. Because Front Row Motorsports and 2311 Racing, they will no longer be in the Cup Series. Now, Front Row would exist in the Truck Series because they do own a Craftsman Truck Series team, but that's besides the point. And they would also have 6 drivers on the open market, and all 6 of them, I would say, are very talented drivers. And also, I'm wondering if Stewart Haas Racing, and I've mentioned this in another episode, would they be involved in this? Would they be back into the sport? Would Gene Haas, the owner of Haas Factory Team, take over those charters? Because he's the only remaining personnel or team owner still in NASCAR that is related to the charter sales of 2024, which in which Stewart Haas Racing sold all 4 of their charters. So and this is all really big, and
a lot of this, I believe, is going to have a humongous impact. And a lot of people have said that Trackhouse and what they do with Daniel Suarez is going to be the big domino of silly season this year. I strongly disagree. I believe that this lawsuit between 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports and NASCAR is going to play out humongously and have a huge impact and on this lawsuit, because if their lawsuit goes the way of the NASCAR and the sanctioning body, then what's going to happen if there's a bunch of charters for sale? Are they not going to want to bother with disputing this? Are they going to want to just go buy the charters that NASCAR has, or the ones that Gene Haas and Tony Stewart will have control of again? I mean, there's a lot to deal with here. So anyway, this is all breaking, and yeah, this is all really, really crazy. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get to the segment I actually had scheduled. I want to talk about Shane Van Gisbergen's win and the effects it has on the playoff grid. Now, this is a big win for Trackhouse and a big win for Shane Van Gisbergen. It's his second career win, and for Trackhouse, it gets their another car into the playoffs, and that's huge. The team played the system right. Had they got a driver in Shane Van Gisbergen who can win them races and win them a lot of road course races. And they play that to her advantage. And I think Calling Racing also did the same thing with AJ Allmendinger, a guy that can win a lot of road course races and get them a guaranteed spot in the playoffs, which is the current system for the playoffs in NASCAR. If you win, you're in. And I wish it wasn't that way, guys. I really wish it wasn't. And I'm trying to be as tactful as I can, but it's really hard for me not to, because I don't like the win you're in system. It throws consistency out the door. And I know back in the day, like in the early 2000s, teams or fans were very upset that Ryan Newman won 8 races in a year, but Matt Kenseth, who won 1 race that year, won the championship. And it rewarded consistency instead of winning. And then NASCAR flipped it to where if you win, you're in. And that started all the way back in the chase in, I believe, 2012. I believe it was 2012. Again, this was before I was watching NASCAR. But either way, they listened to the criticism and changed it. And then they amended it even more to when you could have only be top 30 in points and the win would count. And then they nix that all together. And if you're full time and you win, you're in. That's the same thing. That's now what it is now. And again, I really don't think it is, because we're seeing guys like Michael McDowell and Ryan Preece who've had good seasons. Good seasons. They're not blowing anybody away. I mean, Michael McDowell in the 71 car for Spire making the playoffs. Like, who had that on their bingo card? But either way, it's just I really wish that they would get rid of the win in your end system, because the top 16 in points, in driver points, I just don't feel like you got to reward the most consistent drivers. And with the win in your end system, you're not doing that. Now, I have a quote here from Richard Petty, the King, who on his family's podcast said about the playoff system. So, and I think it mostly agrees with mine. So, or it somewhat echoes mine, and this is where I'm getting my opinion from. The way they got this thing, the playoffs, fixed, you win and you win. That can't be right. From the standpoint that you got somebody that's 30th in the points is going to make the playoffs. Hey, man, what happened to the guy that's 15th or 16th or 18th? Been running good, finishing good everywhere. End quote. So I agree with Richard Petty, and NASCAR has to reward consistency. Now, Richard Petty is from a completely different era of NASCAR, back in the early 80s and 70s. So, and that's when they didn't have the win your in system. It was all about being consistent. And Richard Petty, he won a lot of races. He's the king for a reason. But he also was very consistent. So, I think that NASCAR should go forward and consider getting rid of win you're in, because it's not. I know they try to put a big emphasis on it, but it's created a lot of problems as well. It's been good. It gets a little more excitement in there, but it's also created some bad, because I point to Richmond last year. Austin Dillon Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano for the win just to make the playoffs. And I know that making the playoffs is a humongous boost financially for these teams because making the drivers points and in the playoffs, it also gives you a guaranteed spot in the owners championship, which is a big payout in the charter system. Now, I believe that when you're in can't exist with the owners playoffs, I believe that's a big thing. I believe that's a good spot for it at least. But for the drivers playoffs, I feel like that winning you're in should be only in the owners points and not in the drivers points. And I point to Michael McDowell and Ryan Preece. Like, I don't think they're going to win the championship. Like, no disrespect to them and their teams, but they're not winning the championship. Like, unless they go on a crazy run where they win more races than they have in their entire career, yeah, they're not going to win the race or the championship this season. Guys like Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, those guys you expect to contend. And you I just feel like that NASCAR has to reward the consistency more than winning. And yeah, wins are cool, but I know you're trying to emphasize it, but you got to emphasize it in a different way. Maybe if you want to emphasize winning for the drivers playoffs, you got to like maybe add more points to the winning. Add more points to winning. Maybe give it a guaranteed spot in the owner points still. I don't know. It just when you're in doesn't work for the drivers points anymore now. And a lot of people are not happy about it, and I point to Richmond last year with Austin Dillon as proof. And I point to Harrison Burton winning at Daytona last year as more proof because Burton is not going to go very far in the playoffs. And I know we've had some small teams like RFK with Chris Buescher making the round of 8 in 2023. I believe it was 2023. And you see those sensational runs like that, and maybe in a couple years, RFK can get down the road and eventually make a win and make a push for the championship. I mean, we already saw at 2311 Racing, which is not a Penske or Hendrick Motorsports or a Gibbs car, make the championship. And I know it's a Gibbs Technical Alliance team, but I'm gonna ignore that for right now because they weren't good for very long. And you know they're 2311 Racing with Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin. They're the new kids on the block. Either way, I feel like that this win with Shane Van Gisbergen, no disrespect to Shane Van Gisbergen, his win and maybe Austin Dillon's win and Harrison Burton's win from last year point to the flaws in the current NASCAR playoff format. And I really hope that the committee with drivers and team owners and NASCAR can come to a conclusion and agreement to change the playoffs to get rid of when you're in and allow the consistent drivers to make the playoffs. And now looking at the playoff grid with Shane Van Gisbergen's win, that pushes Chase Elliott, who is 6th in the drivers' points right now, down to 11th in the playoff standings. He's 146 points up, so I'm not worried about him. But the guys I'm really worried about are Bubba Wallace, Chase Briscoe, Alex Bowman, Chris Buescher, Ryan Preece, and Michael McDowell, AJ Allmendinger, and Kyle Busch. All of these guys are within a 50-point span of the cut line. I mean, Bubba Wallace is 57, but it's close enough. So, and a lot of these guys, this makes the playoff push even different. And with so many road courses coming up with Michael McDowell, AJ Allmendinger being really good road course racers, yeah, there can be a lot of chaos that happens. And that Kyle Busch at Daytona last year was looking like he would win and make it into the playoffs and get that win and break that winless streak, but it ended up not happening. And Atlanta, or Echo Park Speedway, excuse me, is coming up in a couple weeks, and that is a chaotic super speedway race, and that can definitely shake up the playoff grid as usual. And we may only have 3 or 2 guys in on points and have 14 different winners this year. Because I'm looking at it right now, Michael McDowell and Ryan Preece are both 14th and 16th in the points respectively. AJ Allmendinger is 17th, excuse me, and Kyle Busch is 18th. Carson Hocevar is 20th, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is 21st. So just some examples I'm throwing out there. So realistically, if the win you're in playoff system was not in there, Michael McDowell would be the last driver in, with AJ Allmendinger being 2 points out, Kyle Busch being 7, and Josh Berry being 10 out. Or no, not 10 out, 8 out. Sorry, I math wasn't mathing in my head for a second. But that shows how competitive and close the playoff cut line would be, and that put a lot of pressure on a guy like Josh Berry, who got that win at Las Vegas. That was huge, but that would put pressure on them to consistently run well and grind out these finishes like a team the one car has, like Ross Chastain, who's 8th in points right now. And yes, he does have that win, but for a while this year, he wasn't winning. So that is a good motivation to always be consistent and have good, solid finishes. And I believe that would also bring out the superstars of the sport, which NASCAR hasn't had for a little while. And I think it would be huge to see William Byron and Kyle Larson or Christopher Bell or Chase Elliott, who honestly probably is the biggest superstar in NASCAR, shine every week consistently, be that superstar. And yeah, and I think NASCAR is trying to even the playing field again with this playoff system, with the winning you're in. But honestly, the next gen car has evened it well enough because you get these random winners every now and again. And I feel like that you can nix the winning you're in now that you have the next gen car, making everything a little bit even and have more parity, but it still promotes consistency, I guess. But either way, that's my take on the playoff format and Shane Van Gisbergen's win. Again, no discrediting to Shane Van Gisbergen. It was an impressive win. I just feel like though NASCAR has to potentially change things with the playoff format and how they get in. I don't know. I'll maybe we'll have a playoff format like a proposal maybe somewhere down the line, but that's all my thoughts on it for right now. And to wrap up this episode today, I have my second ever Talkin NASCAR Power Rankings. So let's go ahead and get that started. Got to do some quick honorable mentions real quick. Alex Bowman had a great run at Mexico City, got a top 5 finish. Still, though, that doesn't quite outweigh the really bad month he's had for the last couple races. And Ryan Preece had a good race. He had a solid race, and he's been running really well. He's 14th in the driver points, and he's knocking on the door of a playoff spot, but he doesn't quite get in over some of these guys. Michael McDowell as well had a solid race at Mexico City as well, and with some of the upcoming road courses, he could definitely be contending for a playoff spot, but with this weekend coming up at Pocono, I'm not very confident in that team heading into this week. And then Carson Hocevar, he has a lot of raw pace, but Mexico City wasn't it for him, so I have to drop him out of my top 10. So let's go ahead and start off with number 10. Bubba Wallace makes it into my top 10 this week. He finished 12th at Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. He's coming off a 4th at Michigan 2 weeks ago, and then the 6th at Nashville after a pretty rough stretch of races for Bubba Wallace. And he outran his teammate, Tyler Reddick, who I think is honestly a better race car driver on a road course than Bubba. But it's really cool to see. I'm interested to see if Bubba can continue this success on road courses this year into Chicago and Sonoma. So we'll have to wait and see there. And at Pocono, he's not great there, but I'm overall impressed with the speed that Bubba Wallace has this season. He's 10th in the driver points. He's holding on to a playoff spot. So this is a humongous stretch coming up for Bubba Wallace and that 2311 Racing team. At number 9, Ross Chastain finished P16 at Mexico City, but finished 6th at Michigan, 11th at Nashville, and then won the Coca-Cola 600 when he was starting last. So, I mean, Ross Chastain has been very, very good in these last couple weeks, and he's been very solid the whole year. And honestly, I would say he's been more solid than Chase Elliott, who hasn't had a finish outside the top 20. And I'll get to Chase Elliott a little bit later. But Ross Chastain, he's been very, very good. He finishes 8th in the driver points. Pocono coming up hasn't been the greatest for him, but road courses are coming up, and I'm expecting some better road course finishes coming up compared to what happened at Mexico City. But moving on, at number 8, we have Chris Buescher. Man, Buescher had a very solid race at Mexico City, finished 10th, and he stayed out early in stage 1 on slicks, was able to hold that track position, was running inside the top 15 most of the race, finished 2nd at Michigan, 14th at Nashville. Chris Buescher, even through all the ups and downs and RFK's had this whole year, Chris Buescher's still very, very consistent. He's battling for that playoff spot right now. Is currently the last driver in on points, and he's 13th in the driver standings. Still a very good season for Chris Buescher. At number 7, Tyler Reddick. He finished 20th at Mexico City, but still he's a really good road course racer, and we have a couple of road courses coming up. He finished inside the top 5 at Pocono last year, and he's 6th in the driver standings right now, and he's, I think, 10th or 11th in on points for the playoffs. So, I mean, Tyler Reddick has been very, very good. He finished 13th at Michigan, 9th at Nashville. I still like Tyler Reddick. I think that team overall has hit a rough patch, kind of like how Kyle Larson has. And I'm just waiting for him to hit that rebound. And right now, he is close to being knocked out of my top 10 for the power rankings, but I'm holding on to hope with Tyler Reddick because I believe he's one of the better drivers in the Cup Series. We just haven't seen that show these last couple of weeks. At number 6, Ryan Blaney finished 14th at Mexico City. Not really known for his road course racing, but he's coming off a win at Nashville a couple weeks ago. He had a rough race at Michigan, but he is also the defending winner of Pocono. He's had a rough couple races these last couple weeks, and his last best finish besides his win at Nashville was Kansas when he finished 3rd. So, Ryan Blaney, I still think that he is one of the top 10 drivers in the sport, but I have to consider maybe dropping him a little bit lower in my power rankings for next week, depending on how Pocono goes this weekend. But Ryan Blaney at 6. At number 5, Chase Elliott got his 4th top 5 of the season. He, at Mexico City, finished 3rd at Mexico City. He finished 15th at Michigan at a couple weeks ago, and then finished 15th at Nashville. Again, he's the king of finishing consistently. And then going back to Charlotte, he finished 6th. And with more road courses coming up, I am very excited to see how Chase Elliott will do. And he won Pocono back in 2022, and that was because the top two finishers both were disqualified. But either way, I'm still going to put it on there. And I'm liking what I see. If Chase Elliott did have another bad week at Mexico City, I would have probably dropped him a little bit lower, maybe down to 6th or 7th. But I'm going to keep him at 5 for this week. At number 4, Kyle Larson got wrecked on lap 9 in Mexico City during the rain. Kyle Busch spun out, and we never really got to see the speed that Kyle Larson had. But to his credit and Cliff Daniels' credit, after they came back out from the garage, they were put some fresh tires on it and got the Xfinity Series fastest lap. So, I mean, maybe there was some speed for Kyle Larson, and he did start 6th. And I'm really wondering if Kyle Larson didn't get wrecked, would he have been in contention for the win? We'll see. But coming up is Pocono. He's won there a couple times, and he's ran really well. And then we got more road courses, which Kyle Larson usually does pretty well at. So Kyle Larson at 4. Christopher Bell will slot in at P3. He has 3 wins this season, won them back to back to back, and we hadn't quite seen that speed except this weekend at Autodromos Hermanos Rodriguez when he finished 2nd behind Shane Van Gisbergen. I'm really hoping that success can carry through. Chicago, he ran really well last season, so I'm watching that race. And Sonoma, he's a very good road course racer. He might be the best road course racer in all of the next gen era besides Shane Van Gisbergen. But Christopher Bell, very solid. He's going to be slotting in at 3rd. At number 2, Denny Hamlin. There's not a lot to say here. I'm keeping that at 2nd because next weekend is Pocono. He'll be back in the car, and he basically owns Pocono at this point. He won back in 2023. He ran really well last season, and with a new baby boy, he'll have a full week of rest. And to his credit, Ryan Truex ran pretty well in that 11. So, I mean, even if Denny was in that car and ran P23, I wouldn't have dropped him very far. So Denny Hamlin will remain at 2. And at number 1, it will be William Byron. Yes, I know he didn't have a great result at Mexico City, but finished 9th, and he's still leading the driver points. He's the number 1 in the playoffs. So, I mean, William Byron has been very, very good this season, and coming off a 5th place at Nashville and then finished 2nd at Charlotte, led the most laps. And with Pocono coming up, it's a good track for him and a bunch of other road courses that he has success at. I'm very confident that William Byron will get back on track, but even still, he has been very, very solid. He has 7 top 5s and 2 poles and a win this season. He's been so close to 2 other wins, and I think that he is on the track to get another win coming up. But there you go. Those are my power rankings for this week. We had a lot to cover today. I got it done in not exactly the time frame I wanted to, but there it is. We had a lot to talk about. Let me know in the comments who you would have in your top 10. Did I leave someone out? Did I have so-and-so ranked too high? Let me know. I love to hear what you have to say down in the comments. And also, go check out all the platforms that we are on now. We are now on Apple Podcasts, and we're also up on YouTube now. Also, go check out Talkin Sports. They're also up on YouTube. and Apple Podcasts, and also here on Spotify. So go check all those out. I'll have a link down in the description to Talkin Sports, and probably you gotta let me know where you guys listen to Talkin Sports mostly. So I'll have a link down there probably for Spotify, and you'll have to let me know if I should put down a Apple Podcast or a YouTube link as well. But there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode, or today's episode, I should say. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.